Hello fishing friends, this is Matthew with Outfishing 13 bringing you another reel service and repair video. Today I'm going to be working on a vintage 1978 Zebco Omega 33. Anyways, let's get started now and I'll show you how to fix and repair this. Mainly this just needs a really good cleaning. There is one problem with the line brake which needs to be re-glued back on, and we'll fix that. Alright, let's get started on this Zebco Omega 33. Now this particular reel was manufactured likely sometime between 1977 and 1979. I believe it's a 1978 reel because I looked at the catalog. It has the same green lettering, the gold banding here, and the styling is all the same as the 1978 catalog. So like all my Zebco reel service videos, you're just going to need a couple of simple tools. A large screwdriver, small screwdriver, maybe a tiny flat screwdriver. This one I think may need a little tiny Phillips screwdriver. You're going to need some reel grease. I got some Penn precision reel grease here, some Lucas fishing reel oil. I also have some Lucas tacky red grease. Okay, so you'll need those. You'll probably need some kind of brush. I've got an assortment of brushes here. A plastic brush, a brass brush, a stainless brush. You could use an old toothbrush. You might need a pair of pliers, like needle nose pliers. A canned air works really good for blowing things out. I like to use WD-40 to break the old grease that's been set up on there. When you use WD-40, make sure you rinse it out good or wipe it down well. So let's get started. Like any reel, the first place that you start on these Zebcos is the front. So let's take the front off and inspect it as we go. This one doesn't just spin off, it has a screw, so you just need to hold on the cap there and take this brass nut off. Now one of the things you'll notice is the pins seem to be in good shape. There's no notching in the cap, so that's a bonus. And then this comes off. This has a little D-shaped hole there. Okay. The next thing we need to take off is we need to take off this keeper right there to take this spool off. Using a small screwdriver, we just need to get in here behind this and give it a little twist. Okay, then let's take this off. It's pretty grimy. Okay, here's our rubber line brake that goes on the line brake here. And it's still in good shape. It's not all cracked or anything like that. We just need to make sure it gets glued back in there. And rubber contact cement will work great for that. That spool is a pretty amazing spool. It's all brass and stainless steel. Okay, there's one of the drag washers. It's kind of an interesting drag washer. Okay, we got everything that we can take off from the front at this point. So let's take off the back and the handle. So let's take this back off. Comes off pretty good. Need to clean up around here. It's got grit and dirt and stuff like that. Okay, now that we have the back off, we're going to go ahead and take the handle off. We're going to take out this line brake mechanism here and the gear out. So to take this handle off, it's kind of got a neat little mechanism here that's really simple, but it's got a plug here. Now on the inside there, it looks like a screw, but it's not. What the Zebco Omega 33 has is a quick change, a handle feature. So all you do is you just pull that off and it snaps out. It's got a little groove there that this little spring right there will hold in, and then you could take and slip it on the other side over here and have a little quick change feature there. So this needs to be all cleaned up. It's pretty grimy. This needs to be cleaned off. So now we got that out. Let's take out this brake mechanism here. Well, it's a little slot is what it is, and you got to get that taken out. So let's get that removed. Okay, I got the first one that came off pretty easy. And then the next one, just like that. Don't lose those little springs. Okay, and then the line brake will come out. We're going to get that all cleaned up and the rubber piece glued back. So this is where you need a little screwdriver. Take out these 4 little screws. And take out these little plates. Okay, and then we can just reach in here and take this out. Okay, there we go. Now, pay attention to some things that are going on here. Here's a little anti-reverse mechanism. And it sits right on there like so. Okay, now that we have the handle axle out with the main gear, we can take this out. Now, you're not going to just be able to pull this out like on many new Zebco reels or some older ones. There's a couple things going on here. One, we have a little bearing retainer here. Here's the ball bearing right here. Plus, we have a little retainer clip right here to this. So now the rest of this here is all put together with rivets and things like that. We can't really take it apart, but we'll get in there and we'll clean it all out and get all this old grease out. All right, so this is going to be kind of tricky, but we need to push down this spring right here. There we go. Let's push down on the cup, and then we can come up here, use our screwdriver, and get this little keeper off. And take the spring. So there's those little pieces right there. Okay, we'll get those all cleaned off. We can take off this. There it is right there. And that shaft right there. Look at that. That's got a little keeper on there right there. Okay, to get that off, I just took my pliers and put it around there and pushed it off. And there's that little keeper. And then there's a little brass washer here. Okay, there's that. And there's the bearing. Now we can clean it all up. And then here's this. This has the pinion gear and anti-reverse stop right there. Okay. So let's get all the parts cleaned up and we can start putting it back together. So I'm just going to clean this up in a little tub. I'm going to use some WD-40 to cut through some of this old grease. Some of it I'm going to wash with soap and water. Like this right here, you could wash this up with soap and water. While we have this apart, let's take a look at how the drag system on this Omega 33 works. Basically, you have a drag wheel right here, and then right here you have behind here, you have a drag washer here. Now this doesn't come out, it's actually riveted in, but it has a mechanism right here that will push up against this right here. when you turn the drag wheel right here, it turns a little ramp. That little ramp travels and it applies pressure here, and it moves that right up to there, and that's the highest drag. And what it does, it pushes out on this right here, applying pressure to here. So it's a little lever, so it can apply quite a bit of pressure here. These can't be replaced, but they're made very durably, and they don't need to be replaced. They're not going to wear out. So loosen your drag right there. So everything in here, right, with the exception of this right here, is riveted in there, and it can't be taken out. But it's all stainless steel or plastic, so we don't need to worry about getting it wet. We just need to take and clean it all out and then blow it out with some air, and we're good to start putting that back together. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take it into my house, and in the sink I'm going to wash it off with some warm soapy water, and then I'm going to dry it off with a blow dryer so it's nice and dry. Get all the water out of all the little crevices that it may go into. Okay, we're going to repair this before we put it all back together. Now, I've already taken and cleaned this. I've cleaned this, and I've removed as much as of the old glue I could from here, and removed all the old glue from here. And we're just going to use some contact cement to repair that with. So here we go. Okay, I'm going to use a little Q-tip to get some glue on there, and then glue on here. It needs to set for about 5 or 10 minutes to dry out, and then we'll put it on there, and that will be a good bond that will last for many years. Okay, it's good. Let's put some on here. All right, I'm going to let that dry. When it's dry, we'll put it together. Okay, this is set up and it's ready to put together. I took my actually took my heat gun, accelerated it a little bit to get it to really go, and there we go. Just get that in there, and that will be good for a long time. Okay, we have to address another issue here that we need to make sure that we take care of. These right here are the bushings for the main axle, okay? And they were on there pretty stiff, and they had a lot of grit in there, so we need to make sure that these are cleaned up really well. Actually go on like so. Now if you were to be able to replace these with a bearing, this is what you would replace, but there's no bearing that's this big that's got ball bearings in it. It's this small. Not that I'm aware of anyways. So we need to take off this little retaining clip. Need to take off this anti-reverse actuator. We need to take off this bushing right here, and we're going to clean it all up. So to take this off, it's got a couple little slots in here. We can actually come in here with a screwdriver and pry it out. A little tiny screwdriver that will work good. Okay, see that? Okay. we're just going to work on this. Okay, this was probably one of the most challenging things to get taken apart, even though it's really simple, but it's important that we get it cleaned up. We're going to wet a Q-tip with a little bit of WD-40, and we're going to run it down these holes. I could feel that there was a little bit of grit in these. So I'm going to clean them up. Clean this one up. I'll show you how this goes back together. It's kind of challenging to take apart, and I'll show you why. I'll show you what we have and what order they need to go in. So we got a little keeper, and we got a little plastic washer, another little plastic washer, and they got a little D shape on them. Okay, and so they go in this order. Spring washer, a little plastic D washer, this piece, then another one of these, and then the little keeper. Okay, let's get this part put back together. And then put this on. Okay, so we need to put on this little spring washer. Okay. And we need to put on one of these little plastic D things, and you can see there's a flat spot there. And obviously the engineers didn't want this to, but it has to stretch around there a little bit to slip on. And what was happening is it was getting stuck in that keeper groove. So we just need to take and carefully stretch it around there and slide it down on there. Okay, and make sure that little flat spot gets put down in that spot right there. Okay, and then this is really important. This goes on the right way. That little pin needs to be pointing towards the outside like that. Okay, see that? So that goes down on there. Okay. And then we got another little plastic washer. And then we got to put this on there. Just like that. Okay, and that's the anti-reverse put back together. And then we got some. Okay. When I took these apart, they were pretty stiff. We're going to oil this main bearing. Let that soak in. Okay, I have all my parts here all lined up, ready to go, and we're going to start putting it back together in reverse order. So the first thing that we want to do is get this little part put back together. This is the pinion gear, and it had a bearing on there and a little washer and a little retaining ring. Okay, so I already got my bearing all lubricated. It doesn't matter which direction it goes on. So there's that. And then it had this little brass washer. And then it had this little retaining ring. Let me get that started. And I'm going to use a small screwdriver to lock it into place. Just like that. Okay, that's running nice and smooth. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is we need to take and put this in there. It doesn't need very much, just a little bit. Okay, with that put on, I can lock it in place with this little bearing lock right there. Okay, just slide over like that. Okay, the next thing that goes in is this right here. We want to make sure that this is lubricated. So we'll put a little bit of grease on there, just a really thin layer. I'm going to put a couple little drops of real oil on there, like so. Now it has a little pin in there. That little pin needs to slide down in to there. Okay, the next thing we need to do is assemble this little spring system here. So we got the spring here, goes on top of there. We have this little piece here that goes on top of there. Okay, and then we got the little cup, goes on top of there. And then we got a little tiny spring keeper here that we got to get on there. So I'm just going to set this down here and put my little keeper there. Okay, we're going to take and put a little bit of oil on here, just a couple drops. So I'm just going to put just a tiny bit of grease. I'll use my pen grease. And then while I got this all apart here, I'm going to take some of this oil and oil up all these little rivets. Okay. Okay, this has had plenty of time to cure. Kind of hold on to there. There's a little end and a fat end. So put that end on there like that, and they'll stay on there. We get one on this side, and then kind of push it to one side, and then get this other one just like that. You can use my screwdriver to get them on there. There's that one, and that one's already on. Okay, so those little plastic posts are down in there, and that's all lined up. There's a little slot right there. Well, this is the way the anti-reverse works. So we don't need any grease down in these whole slots there. We just need to get this down in there. And I'm watching to make sure that, so you gotta kind of wiggle it around in there. Make sure that that gets put in the little groove. Okay, and it's working. So forward and reverse. Okay. Before I do that, I'm going to add a little bit of oil so it can get down in those bushings nicely. Okay. Now there's these little caps right here. These have a little spring on them. They need to go like that because that little spring is going to hold the handle on. Don't tighten it down all the way, that way you can line up this one. Okay, and it's got a little crossbar in there. Just got to line that up and snap it in there. And we're just going to dab the grease on here and then give it a spin and put a little bit more on the stuff. Okay, there we go. I'm going to put just a little bit of grease right there. That's where the button pushes up against. Okay, now we're going to put the spool on. So this is the brake system right here. We want to make sure it's all the way low to put this on. Now we want to put a little bit of grease on these right here. Not a lot, just a little bit. And that's all it needs right there. I'm so used to putting together reels that you put the spool is the big side that goes down. So it goes like that. Okay, and we got grease on here. We want some grease around here. Just needs to sit down on there like that. There we go, that's better. The spinner cap is going to need a little bit of oil on it. So oil with the hinges. Okay, we'll put a little bit of grease, not a lot, just right there and right there. So we just need to take and line up the little screw with the D on there, and you need to take and you have to reel it to get it to set down on there a little bit. Okay, a little bit of pressure on there, and then you can take and put I'm going to go ahead and change this handle to the left like I like it. Pull that off. Put it on this other side. I'm going to put a little bit of grease right around here. You can see right there. It needs to have some grease on there. Put the little plug in. Okay. The drag works great. Let's try that a little bit more. Oh yeah, that's a good solid drag. Oh yeah, the line brake is good and strong. That's perfect. You'll be able to cast big lures with that, no problem. Take and tighten this up. This just is our cap lock, and there we go. Oh, that's working great. It's pretty dang smooth. I mean, it doesn't just spin freely like the ones with all the ball bearings in it, but it's much smoother, and that's going to be a great reel. The Omega 33, this was one of the top premium reels that they made at the time, and you could see just the way it was constructed that it was just a fabulous reel. Very smooth. All right. Make sure you give me a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to my channel by pushing on the button right over there.